27. Call 800-341-2222 now.
The Guardian, keeping you safe on Channel 5.
From ABC, this is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings. Sitting in tonight, Carole Simpson.
Good evening. President Bush and the leaders of the nation's major industrial powers began their meetings in Munich, Germany today. It is the 18th annual economic summit. Emphasis, according to the White House, on the word economic. Before it's over on Wednesday, the 7 leaders are expected to approve at least some economic aid to the former Soviet Union and continued humanitarian aid to the embattled city of Sarajevo. But as ABC's Britt Hume reports, Mr. Bush seems well aware that Americans are far less focused on international problems than on their own pocketbooks.
Despite the splendor and ceremony of the setting here, the president and his team didn't want anybody to think he was just off indulging his taste for foreign policy in the company of foreign leaders. No, these leaders were set to agree to try at least to speed up all their economies. As Mr. Bush was meeting with German Chancellor Kohl today, somebody asked if that would mean jobs for the U.S. Kohl said that it would, and just to make sure nobody missed it, the president repeated the answer.
Absolutely, it's a yes.
Earlier, an event the White House was eager to promote. The BMW Auto Company here signed a deal to build a plant in South Carolina. The president was there to witness the signing, and when his turn came, to say how pleased he was.
We are very proud to have BMW making this an investment. Our whole policy is based on investment abroad and investment in our country. It means jobs.
Carole Campbell, the Republican governor of South Carolina, who's also the state Bush campaign chairman, then used the White House briefing room here for a news conference on the plant and on the importance of international trade, which is, of course, what this summit is about. Later in the same room, when Treasury Secretary Nicholas Brady was trying to explain how pro-growth policies in other countries could help the sluggish U.S. economy, he ended up citing that same BMW plant.
If I were investing, I'd be investing in the United States. I think that's what BMW has made its mind up to do, and it's what I expect a lot of other people to do as well. That means jobs.
It is true that the U.S. economy, now heavily dependent on exports, would benefit from growth among its trading partners, and thus from policies that would promote growth. The problem for Mr. Bush is that such things take time. And with 4 months to the election, time is one thing he hasn't got. Britt Hume, ABC News, Munich.
Not only would they take time, they would take something that is perhaps beyond the reach of the summit leaders. Agreement on just which economic policies to follow, and then the political muscle to make them stick. Here's our economics editor, Stephen Ogg.
The leaders of the Western world who pulled up before the residents of the old Bavarian monarchy agree that the most important thing they could do is to get the world economy to grow. But their ability to do much about that is seriously limited by their own fragile economies. Some of the solutions would be painful and politically risky.
The domestic political weakness of all the summit leaders makes it much harder for them to take initiatives at home that would create effective international cooperation.
For example, some economists say if Japanese Prime Minister Kiichi Miyazawa would agree to raise the value of the yen, it would cut the Japanese trade surplus and help countries that want to sell goods to Japan. But he's reluctant to do that because it would hurt Japanese exports at a time when the Japanese economy is weak. The U.S. would like German Chancellor Helmut Kohl to lower German interest rates. That would stimulate the German economy and encourage German consumers to buy more from other countries. But Kohl won't lower interest rates because he's worried about inflation. The problem is the same with the talks on freeing up world trade that began in Uruguay 6 years ago and continue to stumble. The major participants are not willing to take steps that would anger voters, like further cuts in farm subsidies that have already angered French and German farmers.
I don't think anything concrete will come out of the summit. Very few summits in the past have actually resulted in truly concrete proposals.
The paradox in all this is if the summit leaders could cooperate, their own economies would improve. And so would their standing with the voters. Stephen Ogg, ABC News, Munich.
The Russian President Boris Yeltsin flies to Munich tomorrow. Today, he hosted a summit meeting in Moscow with the leaders of 8 other members of the Commonwealth of Independent States. Mr. Yeltsin is expected to ask the industrial nations for permission to delay payment on Russia's huge foreign debt for 2 years. In a moment, America's teachers, the National Education Association says, not enough minorities and not enough men. Judges in a Texas town draw the line, no more plea bargaining. And where to acquire skill at skirling? At Bagpipe School, of course.
This is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings. Brought to you by Ford and your Ford dealer.
What's most important to you?
My wife. We've been married for 31 years.
32. Definitely these guys.
What's most important? Jack, of course.
My granddaughter, Susan. The new Ford Crown Victoria now offers anti-lock brakes with traction assist and dual airbags. Because shouldn't your car know what's important to you?
Have you driven a Ford lately?
You're going to grill it so you can hear it, so you can see it, so you can smell it. It's going to be like the best thing you ever ate in your life. Wait! It's not done. No, it's done.
A1. It's how burgers are done.
Nabisco shredded wheat. It's just good stuff.
The nation's largest teachers union has taken a new look at the people who are teaching America's school children and is disturbed by what it sees. The new study from the National Education Association finds that efforts to get more men and more minorities into teaching simply aren't working. Here's ABC's Bettina Gregory.
The national survey shows 87% of all teachers are white, 8% are African American, 3% Hispanic, and less than 2% American Indian or Asian. And these racial imbalances haven't changed for the last 20 years.
The failure to attract and keep more minority teachers in the profession threatens to deny minority students the positive role models that they need.
Government statistics show 40% of public school students are minorities, and that number is growing. But these same statistics predict the number of minority teachers will drop to around 5% by the year 2021.
Teaching is a profession that has low pay and low status in terms of public perception. So therefore, if you're a reasonably capable minority student, why not opt for other professions when they're available to you?
The National Education Association survey also shows the overall number of male teachers dropped from a high of 34% in the 70s to 28% in 1991. And the percentage of male teachers in the nation's elementary schools is at its lowest point in 25 years. There are already programs to recruit minority teachers. But the National Education Association, which represents teachers, says the best way to increase diversity in the profession is to improve the overall pay, status, and perception of teachers. Bettina Gregory, ABC News, Washington.
You may have trouble recognizing your dentist the next time you go for a visit. New federal rules in effect today say dentists and other healthcare workers must wear protective gowns, surgical masks, rubber gloves, and even eye protectors for most dental work. It's to protect both workers and patients from AIDS and hepatitis infection. The Space Shuttle Columbia broke its own record today for the longest shuttle flight ever. They're now in day 11 of a scheduled 13-day mission. One of the 7 astronauts, Carole Meade, said that it's not very demanding physically, rather, in his words, like an extended camping trip. Bad news for travelers who might still be hoping for lower airfares. The airline industry tomorrow is expected to announce a new round of fare increases. Passengers may not like it, but for some airlines, it's a question of survival. Here's ABC's Bob Jameson.
At travel crossroads like Atlanta, few were complaining about the expected fare increases. That is because most of those flying now bought their tickets during the airline's recent half-price sale.
About a month ago, when they first got cheap.
We've already booked through for the rest of the year.
We only flew because of the airfare war anyway.
The increases are an attempt to recover some of the losses from that fare war. While it did attract more passengers, it is expected to also cost airlines $500 million in losses on top of $6 billion in losses over the last 2 years. Braniff, which shut down operations last week, blamed the price war for its failure. 3 airlines are already in bankruptcy: America West, Continental, and TWA. Analysts believe at least one of them will shut down by the end of the year.
The 50% off sale was a disaster for the industry. One, it obviously cost the industry money. But two, psychologically, it starts to get consumers used to wanting a discount as opposed to realizing that everybody's going to have to pay more in the future for the industry ever to make money.
These fare increases are expected to average 10%, less on highly competitive routes. But many in the airline industry are predicting this is only the beginning, that the future for travelers will likely mean fewer airlines at higher fares. Bob Jamison, ABC News, New York.
On Wall Street, the Dow Jones Industrials gained nearly 9 points today to close at 33.39. The trading was heavy. Talking about money, the largest gift ever made to a public college or university. Industrialist Henry Rowan and his wife have given $100 million to Glassboro State College in New Jersey. School officials say they will change its name to Rowan College. In a moment, the snipers of Sarajevo.
This will finish putting our daughter through college.
Making dreams come true. That's what we're all about. We've been all across the country and seen screams of delight.
Oh, we did it!
Moments of disbelief.
Are you kidding?
And tears of joy. These winning moments are special for them, special for us too. We're the Publishers Clearinghouse Prize Patrol, and we're looking forward to meeting you soon.
Suddenly, vitamins are all over the news.
And 2 out of 3 adults don't get all that's recommended in their diets.
The good news is Total has 100% of 10 essential vitamins.
With all the vitamin news, I'm eating Total.
Nighttime, one of the worst times for pain. Minor arthritis pain, muscle aches, pain that seems to go on. That's why you need Ultra Strength Bengay. With more pain relievers than we've ever had, you can say goodnight to your pain with Ultra Strength Bengay.
Presenting the Accord EX from Honda. With a new, more powerful engine. A refined suspension system for excellent handling. And cornering. Plus a driver's side airbag and anti-lock brakes.
More planes filled with food and medicine arrived at Sarajevo Airport today. At the Economic Summit in Munich, U.S. officials say they'll support a German proposal to secure a land corridor from neighboring Croatia so relief supplies can also be driven in. In Sarajevo itself, there is nothing a person can do that does not involve an enormous amount of risk. ABC's Sheila McVicker is there.
Just crossing a street in Sarajevo can be a life or death decision. Snipers have turned the city's intersections into killing zones. From the hills, they sight down the streets, picking off their pedestrian targets. Serbian gunners with mortars and heavy artillery indiscriminately lob shells into the city center. Those who cannot or will not pick up a gun have been forced to return to work by the Bosnian government, and thus forced to risk their lives on the streets. Buying bread is dangerous. Catching a bus important because it takes its passengers through town faster. In the city, the United Nations troops are only observers and can't fire back. These 3 men have worked together for 20 years in a tobacco factory. On their way to and from work, they must cross 4 hazardous intersections. The gunners and the snipers in the hills, they say, are making our lives unbearable.
Doctors in Sarajevo say 70% of the wounded they see are civilians, including children, people who happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time.
This used to be the Yugoslav Army hospital. The day the Army pulled out of Sarajevo, it became a target. Operating rooms and wards were destroyed. But many of the Army doctors, like Surgeon Osran Dinovic, deserted and stayed behind to keep the hospital going. Since mid-May, continuously, he has been treating casualties of this war. That experience has made him skeptical that international relief efforts will change things in Sarajevo. Now we have humanitarian aid, he says, so we won't die of hunger today. but maybe tomorrow we will die in a mortar attack. In this makeshift operating room, doctors worked on Nikola Krijek for 2.5 hours. He was shot by a sniper while standing in his front yard. But Krijek lost too much blood and died. Now Dinovich asks himself every day, when will it stop? For civilians in Sarajevo, the fighting has already gone on for much too long. Sheila McVicker, ABC News, Sarajevo.
You may recall last week, French President Mitterrand made the dangerous trip to Sarajevo. He's not the only one in the family who takes risks. Today, Mr. Mitterrand's wife, Danielle, was being driven through northern Iraq on a UN-sponsored mission to help Kurdish refugees when a car bomb exploded just after her car passed by. Mrs. Mitterrand was not hurt, but 3 of her Kurdish security guards and a 10-year-old boy were killed. The United Nations Security Council has accused Iraq of an unacceptable breach in the ceasefire agreement. UN weapons inspectors want to go into Iraq's Department of Agriculture to search for military documents. Iraq will not let them in. In France, another day of gridlock for an 8th straight day. French truck drivers who are upset about new traffic laws blocked highways all across the nation. Today, the government tried to stop it and failed. In France, ABC's Jim Bitterman.
French authorities used armored vehicles, helicopters, and 13,000 riot police to try and end the week-long protest this morning. But as soon as some roadblocks were taken down, new ones were springing up. At the end of the day, there were more blockades than yesterday. And some drivers who abandoned the blockades continued to tie up traffic by driving very slowly. Truckers' unions are now calling for a nationwide strike beginning at midnight. The protest began when the government tried to institute a traffic violation point system similar to that used in the United States, something truckers here feel is unfair because they spend so much time on the roads. Their actions have now cost businesses millions of dollars and created gridlock along one of Europe's main traffic corridors. Fresh fruit is rotting on farms and in warehouses. Store shelves, even in Paris, are beginning to empty. Gasoline pumps have run dry, and assembly lines have closed for lack of spare parts. But real trouble for the government may lie in a poll which shows that despite the economic havoc, nearly half the French people support the drivers.
I think it's bad for France, but it's necessary.
The truckers' action has unleashed a tide of discontent with France's unpopular socialist government, which many feel has lost touch with the concerns of average people. Some farmers, for instance, unhappy with the government's price support system, are now joining the truckers in cutting off road and rail traffic, even though that makes it harder for them to get their products to market. Several groups are calling for a general anti-government strike, something Jean and Monique Lambert would no doubt favor. They took a day off from their factory jobs to help cook meals for protesting truck drivers. The president worries about people in Yugoslavia, Lambert said, but doesn't take care of his own people. Jim Bitterman, ABC News, Paris.
In South Africa, a judicial commission has concluded that President de Klerk and other top government leaders are not to blame for the massacre in the country's black township of Boipatong. But the commission said the government is not doing enough to end the violence. When we come back, a Texas town warns criminal defendants, no more plea bargains, period.
Healthy. A lot of foods are wearing that name. And yeah, they may have the numbers to back it up. But do they have a taste that'll make you want to eat them? Now this is Healthy Favorite Smoked Turkey from Oscar Mayer. This is the real thing. Nothing funny. It's real turkey breast that's naturally low in fat and only 12 calories a slice. And the taste? Well, the proof's right here. New Healthy Favorites from Oscar Mayer. Who else would you trust?
I use a shampoo for dandruff, but my scalp still itches like crazy.
You need new Scalpicin, the revolutionary scalp medicine for deep scalp itch, not ordinary dandruff. Scalpicin is not a shampoo. It's a clear liquid you don't wash away like shampoo. Apply Scalpicin anytime for deep scalp itch relief, with medicine chosen by doctors over all these dandruff shampoo formulas. Scalpicin penetrates to relieve the itch and help prevent flaking.
The itch is gone.
New Scalpicin, the scalp medicine for deep scalp itch.
Presenting the new Jeep. Here's the inside. Here's the outside. The bottom. The top. Here it is by itself. Here it is with its competition.
Listen, athlete's foot fungus grows beneath the surface of your skin. To cure it, you've got to get down to the root of the problem. You need Micatin.
Micatin penetrates the surface of your skin with miconazole to cure athlete's foot where it grows. Step up to the mic. Micatin.
Gas pressure means pain and bloating. And the way doctors see it, your best choice for relief is Mylanta gas. It has the best medicine for gas.
A small town in Texas is trying a new experiment in justice. It involves banning a practice that goes on in just about any courtroom in America called plea bargaining. Supporters claim plea bargaining is the only way to keep the wheels of justice turning. Not everyone agrees. Linda Patillo is in Tyler, Texas.
Court come to order, all rise.
When the judges of Tyler got together a year ago, they decided to take justice into their own hands.
Please be seated.
The three judges were fed up with deals between defense attorneys and prosecutors in which defendants agree to plead guilty in exchange for a reduced sentence. So they banned all plea bargains in their courtrooms. Horse trading is what Judge Joe Tunnell called it.
It sort of goes against my grain, striking a deal and entering into a plea bargain and writing it down on paper, sign it, say, here, Judge. Now, all you can do is rubber stamp it or veto it.
I mean, we call it a plea bargain, and that implies it's something less than what the real price is.
Before the judges stepped in, 2/3 of the criminal cases here ended in plea bargains. Now defendants have two choices: plead guilty to the judge and take their chances on a sentence, or have a trial by jury. Skeptics said banning plea bargains just wouldn't work, that the court system would bog down and the local jails would overflow. So far, that has not happened.
Now, do you understand, sir, that the court will not entertain any plea bargain recommendation whatsoever?
So far, most defendants are pleading guilty to the judges rather than face a jury of their East Texas peers. But some people are afraid eventually there will be more trials and cases will pile up.
In my opinion, I believe that the system will eat itself up unless there are some type of plea bargains.
No one has studied whether the sentences handed down now are harsher than before, but the public perceives them as more just.
There's too many people are taken off the hook through plea bargaining.
Plea bargaining has been a means for criminals to escape punishment.
Judges from across the country have called for more information about the no-deal policy. If the judges in Tyler continue to find success with it, others may follow suit. Linda Patillo, ABC News, Tyler, Texas.
The Chicago Cubs are going west, and they're not alone. The baseball commissioner, Fay Vincent, realigned the National League today. Beginning next year, the Cubs and St. Louis Cardinals will be in the NL West, while Atlanta and Cincinnati will play in the East. When two new teams join the league next year, the Florida Marlins will play in the East, the Colorado Rockies in the West. And we'll have our final report in a moment.
Suddenly, vitamins are all over the news.
Fact is, 2 out of 3 adults don't get all that's recommended in their diets.
2 out of 3?
Wonder if I'm getting the vitamins I should.
There is a cereal, though, that has 100% of 10 essential vitamins. Whole grain total.
Of course.
Just one bowl gives you a full day's allowance of these vitamins. Total. One bowl, 100%.
With all the vitamin news, I'm eating Total.
Of course.
People who hurt from arthritis are discovering a safer aspirin, Ecatrin.
On a bad day, I can take up to 8 and not be concerned about irritating my stomach.
It's the orange coating that makes it safer.
Plain and buffered aspirin dissolves in the stomach where aspirin can cause irritation. But Ecatrin's safety coating helps protect your stomach from aspirin's irritation.
So I'm not worried taking the maximum dose.
Every 6 hours, pow, pow. For minor arthritis pain, the safer aspirin is Ecatrin. And that's the truth.
Knock out the flea and tick problem for good. Hit him with the old 1-2 combination punch from Hearts. Get rid of them with the Hearts 2-in-1 Rib Flea Shampoo. Those tough bubbles knock out fleas and ticks while leaving Rocky looking and smelling like a champ. Follow through with the Hearts 2-in-1 Collar. It stops fleas and ticks dead for up to 5 months, even if it gets wet. Hearts 2-in-1 Rib Flea Shampoo and a Hearts 2-in-1 Collar. That's the Hearts 1-2 punch. It's murder on fleas and ticks. Hearts, everything good for your pet.
Tonight on Nightline, the Mafia. Its bosses are being jailed, but is it on the ropes? We'll look at Sicily, where the mob was born and is still growing stronger. Tonight.
Finally tonight, pipe dreams in summertime. We know a lot of people who find summer gives them the perfect opportunity to learn something new or to improve an old skill. There are camps where you can learn to use computers or improve your golf swing or do something about your skirling. Yes, skirling. Here's Charlie Murphy.
Ah, the sound of the Highland bagpipe. But this isn't Scotland, it's Idlewild, California. Outside of Scotland, though, the best place this summer to learn piping. From world-class pipers brought over from the famous Glasgow College of Piping.
The first time it's... The second time it's...
More than 50 people put up $500 for a 9-day course.
Have you noticed any interest, increased interest?
Massive interest. From the E, from the F.
Students practice on what's called a chanter. These are beginners. They pipe off-key. When a chanter's connected to the bag, you get a continuous flow of air through the pipes. Good enough sound, a beginner can get a little work playing pipes.
Fortunately, I'm the only piper in Cambria, so they don't mind the mistakes. They don't know the difference.
It takes years to learn to play one well. They require almost constant tuning, blow too hard, and they skirl.
All right, overblowing. You're blowing too hard, don't I?
Mike Adamson's wife doesn't like skirling. That's why she's at home and he's here.
There's been times that I couldn't come down here, and the wife says, yes, you're going.
A proper piper wouldn't be caught dead without his kilts, which means he has to carry a fancy purse. But don't get any ideas. This is a war instrument, used to rouse the troops and terrify the enemy. It did that in the Gulf War.
Some people use drums, some people use bugles. We used bagpipes.
That's what these Americans are connecting to, a proud tradition. In Scotland recently, a man sued a piper living next door for being a nuisance. He had played Scotland Forever 59 times without stopping. The jury ruled in favor of the piper. Charles Murphy, ABC News, Idlewild, California.
And that's our report on World News Tonight. I'm Carole Simpson. Peter Jennings will be back tomorrow. For all of us at ABC News, good night.
This has been a presentation of ABC News. More Americans get their news from ABC News than from any other source.
Monday, honor the best in the business. Bob Saget hosts a tribute to this year's hottest athletes. The Jim Thorpe Pro Sports Awards, Monday.
Listen, Coca-Cola is putting together the biggest music event of the summer with the hottest acts in the business. Elton John, Natalie Cole, Eric Clapton.
5 minutes, Mr. Stewart.
In Excess, Randy Travis, and more. And you can win collector's edition CDs and cassettes with these great artists. And it's all free, but there's only one place you can get them. Right here.
This summer, there's music in the real thing. You could win one of 20 million prizes in specially marked packages of Coca-Cola products.
Amazing Blue Star ointment stops itching fast. Jock itch, ringworm, tetter, relieves athlete's foot. Blue Star ointment, the one that's guaranteed. Ask for it.
Can you find the drug pusher in this picture? It's hard to believe kids this young are at risk because someone their age may be offering them drugs.